Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another video. In this video we're going to be looking at crossbows. So getting straight into it then, we have the Elder's Crossbow Auto Fire. Channel spell dealing 97 physical damage for 8 hits. Huge auto attack damage. I mean, that's basically what it is. It's just an auto attack. You can keep channeling it over and over again. You do have to stay in one spot while you do it, but actually the damage this puts out by just channeling it over and over again is so much. You then have Explosive Bolt. Shoot a bolt that explodes in a 3 meter radius, dealing 313 damage. Absolutely incredible for poke if you hit this on 2 or 3 people. Going to do some serious damage in terms of chunking them. 15 meter range, which means you can cast it from quite a far way out, and like I said, get poke on before they even get to you, which is quite nice. I prefer auto fire, but again, different team comps run different things. If you have lots of armor pierces, I would say auto fire is the best thing, because you can pierce a tank and then just let auto fire do its work against the tank and you will rip them apart. Knockback shock, deal 125 physical damage to knock back the target 16 meters. Really fun to use, however absolutely terrible unfortunately. Knockbacks aren't always the greatest thing, because it potentially just allows them to reposition in a nicer spot, and that's not really where you want to give them. Undershot. This is actually the highest, I believe it's still the highest, armor reduction, or sorry, armor and magic resist reduction possible in the game, with up to 80 immediately. So a ranged attack dealing 278 magical damage, and physical damage, and reduces the target's armor and magic resist for 4 seconds. The more health the target has, the more stacks of resistance between 1 and 10 stacks are applied, and each stack reduces resistances by 8. So up to 80 resistance pierce. Super strong, decently low cooldown, cast time is only a second, 11 meter range, just a really nice all-round skill. I would say this is the best W ability for the crossbow, followed closely behind by Noise Eraser, but we'll get to that one in a second. We then have Caltrops. Shoot a trap into the ground. The first enemy that walks over the trap is slowed by 50% and takes 44 damage per second for 4 seconds. Actually really fun to use in ZVZs. It only applies to one person, which is unfortunate, but actually if you put that on like a front line, or in front of the front line, if a tank has to run through it to get to you, he's going to slow himself, which makes it sort of engage a little bit more difficult. So potentially can do some work. Short cooldown, pretty fun to use. And then Noise Eraser. Cast a bolt in any direction. On hit, it silences an enemy for 11.66 seconds and deals 445 damage. Cast time 0.7 seconds, range is 20 meters, and cooldown 15 seconds. Actually, I am just going to do that, just to try and get a little bit more of an accurate viewing on these cooldowns. I know what they are, it just annoys me that it keeps showing up. Decent ability, I would say it's just behind Undershot. Undershot probably just offers more at the moment. But Noise Eraser, pretty nice. If you land that onto a healer, land that onto a tank as he's engaging, you can really do some work. Land it onto a Claret Blade, they're not going to be able to get another stack, which means I'll lose their stacks. All these different things actually can really make a difference in a fight, so I would say this is a very good ability. Looking at the passives then, Forceful Bolts. Every 3 normal attacks, your attack will knock the enemy away and interrupt their spellcasting. This is such an annoying ability and passive, because like any PvE, you'll just knock mobs further and further away, and you will not help your team. Your team will be very upset with you. Please do not use it. Aggressive Caster, pretty terrible in fairness. Running the crossbow, it has some synergy with Snipe Shot, but again, it's just not viable enough, I don't think, at the moment. Energetic, every normal attack you restore 4 energy. And then Furious, every 5 activated spells, or your damage gets increased by 10% for 4 seconds. Perfect passive for the crossbow, definitely the one you want to be using. Does take till 50 to unlock it though, unfortunately. And then talking about Snipe Shot, which is the E ability for the crossbow. So base tier 8 deals 1158 physical damage, 3 second cast time, 15 second cooldown. The only way you're going to get this off realistically, if you're going to run this, run Undershot, probably auto fire as well in fairness, but you can run Explosive Bolt with a different build. So if you're going to run the crossbow, aggressive caster, you want to trigger this before you cast it, at least reduce some of the cast speed. Because you cannot free cast just a 3 second cast time Snipe Shot, it's just not going to happen. So what you can do is actually trigger it with Explosive Bolt, cast 3 spells, cast the 4th one on Undershot, and then have that will apply the aggressive caster to cast your snipe shot. Pretty decent combo. Probably going to get dodge rolled, something like that, a lot of the time, unfortunately. Royal Boot's exactly the same cooldown, so it's going to be quite easy to dodge roll that. It's very, very obvious. Probably not a very good option. Maybe Hellgate viable, but not GVG viable, and certainly not ZVZ viable. We then have the Heavy Crossbow, probably the best GVG weapon for the crossbow line. Sweeping Bolt, a strong bolt that sweeps through the enemy, dealing 542 damage to every enemy it hits. It also interrupts enemy spellcasting and channeling. Absolutely perfect counter to Great Holy. If you ever see a Great Holy staff, Heavy Crossbow is what you want, because you can interrupt every single E with this, every single Holy Explosions. Does a decent amount of damage. You link that up with the fact you can hit multiple people. You really can put some serious pressure out. If you're going to do this one, I would potentially say Explosive Bolt, because you just want to poke constantly. Undershot, and then into the Sweeping Bolt. So on your target, you want to be applying Undershot, and then Sweeping Bolt as you can hit multiple people, or you're going for an interrupt. I would say this is probably the best crossbow at the moment. Crossbows are in a bit of a weird spot. Fire and Frost. Frost is okay. Fire is incredible at the moment. I would say Crossbow actually sits between the two at the moment. But I think it's quite an underrated weapon. We then have the Light Crossbow. Exploding Shot. Fires an exploding shot that deals 165 physical damage and places a bomb on the target. After a few seconds, the bomb will explode, dealing 524 damage to any enemy in 5 meter radius around the detonation. Damage cannot be reflected. I quite like this ability. Not a lot of people like to run it. Not really sure why. You can do a lot of damage with this. ZVZs, this is quite fun. You can put this bomb onto someone and then they're going to run around and just explode themselves. You can do so much with it, but no one really likes running it. I would say this is the second best for like Hellgates and GVGs. But again, you're probably going to run the Heavy Crossbow instead almost every time. This Exploding Shot can be cleansed, I believe. Can be dodge rolled, can just walk out. Obviously, except for the one person that's on, everybody else can walk out the radius. So, yeah, I'm not really sure about it. It's probably not particularly viable now that the map's opened up a little bit more in the Hellgates. And the GVGs, actually. We then got our first tier of artifact, the Weeping Repeater. Shoot a mine into the ground, it will detonate once someone steps on it, ally or enemy. Upon detonation, it will deal 457 magical damage to all enemies within a 7 meter radius. Damage cannot be reflected. Really, really good for ZVZs. You just keep throwing these in. They explode really big. And you've then got the Explosive Bolts to come in after that as well. Between the two, I would probably run Explosive Bolt, Caltrops, and Explosive Mine. And just be that mine firing guy. Definitely viable. I would say it's actually very, very strong. But yeah. So we then have the Boltcasters. Boltcasters are, I believe, the highest single target damage in the game from range. Obviously, while that ability is up. Not sure if it sustains it. You basically want to be using like the Sunder Shot into Deathwood Climax. Try and get as much damage off as you can. It will get interrupted, and this is the issue with it, is that you're not able to actually guarantee a full cast. Obviously, it's a 30 meter range to start casting. It actually goes up to like 18, 19 meters before it breaks. Most people are going to royal shoes out of it and just ignore it. I would say these are completely non-viable at the moment. And finally, we have the Siege Bow. The Siege Bow. Vicious Barrage. Fires a sustained barrage of bolts in a large cone in front of the caster, dealing 347 magical damage per second. Against players, an additional 2% of the enemy's max health will be dealt as direct damage every second. The channel lasts up to 5 seconds. Sorry, I had to choke a little bit then. 30-second cooldown, 75 energy cost, 20 meter range. It's such a big range for ZVZs. This is god tier right now for ZVZs. It does so much damage. It's going to hit so many people. Pair that up with the Knight Helmet that we normally see, probably Royal Boots, and actually a Royal Robe. You put the rune down and then do the Vicious Barrage. It's going to stack up while you're in it. It's going to give you a lot more damage, give your group some damage as well. I think this is a pretty scary combination at the moment. So guys, Tell me what your crossbow thoughts are. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and catch you later, guys. Goodbye.